Hi, welcome to Chat Communications Happenings and Trends. We have a lot of stories for you guys today. Well, a lot for us, it's 3, and we may or may not get through all of them. Hopefully we will. But before we get started, please check out our Patreon page. Any little bit that you can donate to us would be very helpful. We can replace lights and things like that with the donations that you provide. We also have PayPal. If you want to do a one-time donation, that is fine too. So we're just going to jump right into our first story, which is on the prison strike. All right. So in response to a riot that happened in South Carolina on April 15th of this year, prisoners have decided to go on strike. They started the prison strike today, and that riot ended up killing about 7 inmates and wounding many more inmates as well. And in fact, that riot was considered to be one of the most deadliest prison riots in America within the last quarter of a century. So that's kind of a big deal. And it happened in South Carolina, if I didn't already tell you this. Anyways, I guess something of, hopefully this will be projected to be the largest prison strike in human history, because we have such a huge prison population in the United States. Something of like, I didn't write it down, but trust me, it's huge. It's in the millions. One of the demands, we have a list of their demands, and a few of them include making sure that voting rights are restored, assuring that they have, humane housing facilities, that they're not, standing in puddles of water, which have been reported at various prisons from time to time. And they also want to end the prison slavery system. So if you aren't aware, slavery is still legal in the United States, and it is actually, if you are a prisoner, you can be enslaved and put to work with little to no pay. And so about 800,000 prisoners are put to work every single day in the United States under these conditions. They don't get paid, if at all. I mean, the payment is in the pocket change. Is that even a thing anymore? Is pocket change even a thing? Pocket change, which is like little coins in your pocket, just in case people don't know what that is. But yeah, they get paid for little to nothing. And so this needs to happen, and I am very supportive of this strike and this effort. So it's projected to last for about 19 days, and they want to do it peacefully. So some of the ways that they are expected to do this or carry this out peacefully is by holding sit-ins, by just refusing to work, as well as hunger strikes. Now, there's some argument to be made that hunger strikes is a sign of violence against their own person, but again, I don't necessarily agree with that perspective, but I can see kind of why people would argue that. This started they wanted to do some, I guess, have some historical significance to this particular strike. And it's the 47th, they started today, which is the 47th anniversary, or 46th or 47th anniversary of a slaying of a prominent Black Panther who attempted to escape prison, and he was shot and killed when he attempted to escape a prison. It's also ending on the 47th anniversary of Attica, which is September 9th. So that's why I think they've decided to do it for these 19 days period. What's your perspective, Janet, on this whole strike thing?
Hey, so I don't know why I'm not coming up. Hold on. There we go. Hey, yeah. So the whole thing is taking place in these next few weeks, and they're like you said, it's all significant dates of what they're doing. And 2 years ago, there was a movement on the 45th anniversary of Attica that they did 20,000 inmates refused to show up for work. And so that's kind of a basis of, why, where they wanted to do for this one. Also, you know, they just in reading some of the stuff, I mean, you know, this stuff happens, but it's like one of the things here that I was reading was saying they were getting threatened for talking to the advocacy groups too, that they were going to be moved to tougher facilities if they kept talking to the advocacy groups. So that was one of the things too that kind of struck me, because with doing the strike too, it's all word of mouth. I mean, you're in prisons, they have to get people in there. So it was the advocacy groups, or they were having people, you know, as they went to visit people, tell the inmates that they were doing this. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it, I guess. I haven't heard anything really significant coming out of today, but we'll probably have a little bit more news on it as the week goes on and stuff like that. So
I feel like as more progresses, as more days go forward, more people or more prisoners will be inclined to join the strike as well. And I'm hoping that's the case. I haven't heard any updates to actually just that this is happening. As far as I've heard, no incidences of any type of violence or anything like that. I'm sure that the people in charge of these prison systems are expecting this to just kind of, you know, go away. I mean, it's expected to not last beyond these days, but I personally, when you go on strike, you should be in it for the long haul. Otherwise, people are just like, I can wait 19 days, you know, or what, 19 days, right? Which, yeah, it's inconvenient for those days, I guess, if you're profiting off of these people, but at the same time, it's just 19 days. So that's why I think that it needs to be kind of we will stop when we get our demands met, more of a thing. And I don't know. That's just my perspective on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, they definitely need to. I don't know. They need. There's got to be. We need to get the word out for this. We need people's eyes on it, because they're gonna squash it in the news.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna. They're not gonna tell us things unless something bad happens. So if it's a peaceful protest, they are not going to get the word out, and so it's up to us to really push the word and, you know, say, look, you know, people are, you know, these are the reasons why, and, you know, they're people, they're humans, they're being, you know what I mean, and a lot of them are in there for non-violent things. I mean, it's like, you know, we set up the system to do private prisons and stuff like that, so that people can profit more off of people. And then with the whole drug war and stuff, it's just been, it's nuts. And the people that are getting hurt the most are the ones that are oppressed the most. Basically, it's you don't have really rich people and stuff like that in the jails that have to go off and do this work and stuff like that. They're not doing it. It's you know, it's the ones that were in there that got caught with an ounce of weed and get 4 years for that, you know. Like,
right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, to the abolishment 13th Amendment, I think it would have to take another amendment to get rid of the provision about imprisoned slavery, because of the fact that it does essentially abolish the free person slavery. So I wouldn't want to necessarily take away that entire the entire 13th Amendment, but I would want to see another amendment getting rid of prison slavery. So I don't think it would be entirely practical to abolish the 13th Amendment.
Not in these days, anyway.
Right? Yeah.
I don't trust fuckers with that.
No. Oh. But yeah, I really hope that something good comes of that, and I think we do need to make sure that we track this, because, like you said, Janet, I haven't heard anything mainstream about this prison strike. I mean, the best article I've seen so far has been really from The Guardian. And I mean, that's pretty mainstream. But again, it's in written form. It's not being talked about on media outlet platforms or talking or video platforms and things like that. So which is alarming to me because of the fact that this is projected to be the largest prison strike in human history, which is notable in and of itself. And then we have to dig down into why they are doing this, which is also a notable reason, because we still have legalized slavery in the United States.
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, that's one of the major reasons. And they just want to not be like animals. They shouldn't be treated like animals. They're already being punished from being separated from general society. That is their punishment. That's why they get those years added to their sentences or for their initial sentencing, right? They don't get, it's not like the judge doesn't go, okay, you get 15 years of this, and then we're also going to tack on a little bit of slave labor. You have to do that for 5 years, and et cetera, et cetera. No, it's you are removed from general society for 15 years. You are sent to prison. That is in and of itself punishment. Not having the freedom and the mobility to move about and do whatever it is that you want is a punishment. And to go further and to say, yeah, these people deserve to be fucking slaves. What is wrong with you? You are messed up if you believe that. Or you have the fact is that is still a human being that says those things and that believes those things. And because I have a little bit more compassion towards my fellow human, I just can't imagine having that perspective. But I know that perspective is there, and it's so disheartening about humanity. I've been on a kind of a disheartening about humanity streak lately. Sorry, that's going to come up a lot.
Even like the voting rights. I mean, like you dehumanize a person for what? I mean, most people in prison are not violent people. Like they're not in there for violent crimes.
Right.
And so they can't even vote. I mean, you're taking away a right that, was supposed to be given to everybody, long ago, but it took a long time. But I mean, it's like they can't be doing, they can't treat.
But this is just a throwback, right, to slavery, because the prisons used slave labor very early on. They incarcerated Black and brown people very early on after the Civil War to maintain slave labor. And so what was slave labor? Well, slaves couldn't vote. They didn't have that right. And when they did get it, they weren't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily bestowed upon them, but their master, right, to be able to count them as kind of like a third of a person. It's atrocious. And so that removal of those voting rights for these inmates is a throwback to slavery times when slaves didn't have the right to vote, that you can tell because of the fact that they're being used for slave labor right now. This is modern day slavery by another thought or name. And just because somebody is convicted of a crime, again, one, doesn't mean that crime was violent, and two, it doesn't mean that they were fucking guilty for that crime. Which I think people forget a lot of time. A lot of innocent people go to prison. A lot.
Yep. Or they go in not proportionate to other people. So a white person may only get a year and a half for something, a Black person gets 5 years for.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so nothing is, nothing's there that's like the same. It's they just pick and choose. It's up to the judge to decide, and it's just wrong. And I wanted to go back to the fact that when you were saying that you didn't hear anything, it was a week ago that I found out about it, because I was like, what is this hashtag August 21st I'm seeing? So I clicked on it, and sure enough, that's what I found. And I'm online all the time, and I didn't really even, I didn't see it enough, and people weren't really talking about it. And I think it's important, and it's important for us to all support them and support the strike. Yes. Because they're humans and they deserve.
I mean, I am convinced because it's so profitable, right, to use slave labor, that, there is probably a push to make sure that every American citizen at some point has been incarcerated so that they can work for free.
Yeah.
I know that's paranoid, but it wouldn't surprise me. It just wouldn't. There's very little anymore.
Not every American, only the ones that.
The majority being minorities, by the way. Not every American. Not some like cute blonde. No.
Not the ones that can pay their way out.
Right. Or the wealthy ones, yeah. The wealthy ones are probably the ones, the owners, so they'll be fine. But yeah. I mean, I'm sympathetic to criminals in the fact that they are still human beings and therefore they should be treated as such. Especially people that are nonviolent offenders, people that are in there for drug reasons. Arguably, you can say that the majority of Americans have used an illicit substance, just not the majority of Americans have got caught using the illicit substance or got in a situation where if they did get caught, they didn't go to prison for it. But then there's a proportion of society that does go to prison for minor violations like that, but particularly Black and brown Americans. So that's why we need to be sympathetic towards everybody that's having to suffer through these conditions, needlessly so, by the way. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about the Clean Power Plan. So the Trump administration has released their, version of EPA laws or EPA guidelines and things like that. And they're naming it the Clean Power Plan, which is funny because, and very Orwellian, by the way, because it's basically a new carbon emissions plans that regulate kind of coal plants. And it's projected to lead to 1,400 premature deaths annually because of the increased carbon emissions that would be going into the air from these plants. And this increase in deaths of 1,400 premature deaths annually is by the year 2030, by the way. And so we're talking about lives that will never come back for the sake of profit of the coal industry profiting. So I just want to make sure that we have that clear and that stage has been set. Now, let's talk about something else that I think that seems to be missing in this fucking story. And that is the devastating effects this will have on our current situation and future situation regarding climate change. Because not only are we not under the current guidelines, under the Obama administration guidelines that I guess are being repealed by this, we were not in a good place to help stop the effects of climate change. We were not there. We were hopefully getting to that point, but we've hit a brick wall. So today also, or I guess I read today, this may not have been reported today, but I read this today that a large part of the Arctic ice that was the oldest and I guess most robust or thickest part of this ice has broken up in the Arctic Sea today. So that's troubling as well. I don't think people are taking this seriously. Climate change is real and it is man-made. There is no debate on this. There should never have been a debate on this, period. And the fact that not only are we projected to basically kill 1,400 additional people every year just because of them deregulating the coal plants, we are fucking up and assuring that there is no future planet for people to live on. Which I guess if you are Elon Musk wealthy and you know, build your little thing to Mars, and then that's like the elite colony, you know, what that reminds me of that movie. What was it? Elysium or something. Anyways, I don't know what it's called, but it reminds me of that, where the, you know, the like poor people were left on pretty much a dying, garbage infested planet, while the rich people lived on this like great utopia on the moon. Something along those, yeah, Elysium, thank you. Something like that. And so unless you are in that situation, then I guess you aren't worried about this. But for the rest of us that, or that we will be stuck here on planet Earth, and our children will be stuck here on planet Earth more than likely, this is we need to be paying attention. And I know I feel like I'm preaching to a choir on this, because it falls on deaf ears for anyone else. I am still flabbergasted by the fact that people think that it's not actually happening, that climate change isn't actually happening, and our air and our water isn't actually poisoned by deregulation, because it most certainly is. I just don't understand the fact, and the people that kind of run with this idea that it's not a thing. But one, they say they value life because they don't want abortions, but then they don't value actual life because they're okay with us killing our planet. I mean, the data is incontrovertible on this, and yet they don't believe it because it's convenient for them to not believe it. That's literally the only reason. It's not because of counter evidence, because there is no counter evidence. The data is very solid, right? And the 2% of climate scientists that disagree are usually the ones that are paid by the oil industry to disagree. And then, anyways, so that's my spiel on this. It's troubling. Now, one of the things that's going to happen here with this repeal of these emission standards for these plants is that it would then also allow that this plan is also set to allow the states to also make additional cuts and repeals of any type of plans that they made or that they put onto this particular industry as well. And so then if you give it to the states for them to repeal these things and to defer to the plants to self-regulate themselves, when has this ever worked? When has deregulation ever worked? I'm just curious. Like, there's no evidence that deregulation works for the benefit of everyone. It only benefits the owner class, right? It only benefits the people that are running the show. It doesn't benefit anybody else. In fact, it hurts everybody else. In fact, it's projected to hurt 1,400 additional people you can't get back. I don't understand. Why is life so unprecious to these people?
Because of money. Pepsi.
Yeah.
But no, I was gonna say, and this doesn't, this came on, the Trump going to West Virginia, of course, and this is where all this is announced. And you have our friend Manchin, who's a Democrat who loves Trump for this very reason. This has definitely been why he's been buddying up to him, trying to get these, and he's supposed to be a Democrat. And you had the governor was voted in, and then he was a Democrat, but then became, so he could support Trump, he became a Republican. And then you have Manchin, he's not a Democrat. I'm sorry. He's well, I mean, he is a Democrat. They want to be, but the Democrats want to be the Republicans, so he is that. But I mean, the whole thing is just is bullshit. This is what it was coming down to. This is why Manchin was cozying up to Trump and everything. And that's the whole thing. That's the problem with this administration. You cozy up to Trump, you're gonna get what you want. Absolutely. That's all he wants. All he needs is you giving him attention and pretending that you're his friend, and he's going to give you what you want. We've seen.
I mean, he's super malleable in that regard because he doesn't have any principles. When you don't have any principles, anyone can affect you, right? You can just go with the wind, essentially. You go with the last person in the room said. You know,
Trump is kind of like the mafia, but without any like standards. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he wields a lot of power, and he wields threats too, right? To back that up.
But like he'll just go with anyone. Like even the mafia, really, like, hold up, like this person looks fucking shady. Trump just like runs headfirst in as soon as someone's friendly to him, and it's so predictable.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because, well, this is kind of going off track, and so maybe this is another thing for later. But I'm going to ask it, and then you guys remind me later. But I'm wondering if, you know, like people are like, Trump isn't really loyal back to the people that he, you know, screws over essentially. But he seems like an insanely loyal person. Just because of the fact that he's willing to like give his friends all these positions and in the White House. And I mean, who was Omarosa to him, right?
Well, him and Omarosa had a very odd father-daughter relationship that went back to like The Apprentice. Like I read a whole article and it was it's weird. It's like she's a second Ivanka. Like there's still that sexual tension there.
Hi, hold on.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback. Okay. Oh. Sorry, guys. Is somebody standing next to the? Are they watching and on the phone at the same time? Like, are they close to? Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's the NSA, probably. Or Janet lives in a haunted house. But yeah, that's kind of weird.
Best of hell.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So if you want to call in today, the number is 508-534-8585. Sorry, Brad. Yeah, sorry. It's gone now. It's done. It's gone. But yeah. So climate change is real and it's a thing and we should heed it. I think that right now all we can do is the little bit you can on an individual level. So if that means, you know, having your temperature up higher during the day, then that's just how it's going to have to be. Because right now I just don't see anything changing regarding the issue on climate change. So we have to do what little we can, and unfortunately, that's the unfortunate reality of the situation.
I just want to, like, Ann Coulter once said, like, she actually wrote this in a book, that the earth was here for us to, like, rape and pillage. And that's generally what evangelicals believe, that the earth is here for us to destroy.
Yeah. I've heard that argument too.
I mean, some people don't care.
No. They don't. That's them, and I'm hoping they're a dwindling breed. Unfortunately,
they're brainwashed.
Unfortunately, it's that, right? They're brainwashed, and that, I mean, brainwashed in that capacity takes so much deprogramming, right? It's a chore, but there's only about 30% of the country that are evangelicals to begin with. There are less people that believe that climate change isn't actually there are less people that believe that climate change isn't a thing than do believe that. Now, the numbers are still pretty crappy. I think it's like 56 or 40-60. 60 do believe in it, 40 do not, which is alarming. But the more
I agree with that. I agree with that point, but like, look who's in power. You know, there's a lot of evangelicals in power.
Yeah, yeah, they are, unfortunately. And there are the bad part about this is that people will not understand how bad this is, especially the ones in power, especially the ones that have been brainwashed to abide by the ones that are in power, until it's literally on their doorstep. And at that point, there's nothing that you can do about it, which is the unfortunate thing about this. It's heartbreaking to see. It's heartbreaking knowing that like a company like what we were talking about this, it wasn't BP. Somebody corrected me on this. What was
Exxon.
it? Thank you. It was Exxon. A company like ExxonMobil hid data from the 1950s, knowing that their product was poisoning the earth and contributing to climate change. They hid that this was known in the 1950s, and nothing was done. They hid it, and then when it was becoming a known thing, nothing was done, and now it's a more known thing, and nothing is done. These are the times in which I feel so powerless, because this isn't about me. This is about, the future of humanity. That's what we're literally talking about right now.
I just hope, I don't know if there's been like studies done on the age group that doesn't believe in climate change, but I just hope it's like a generational thing. Like, maybe that's morbid, but I hope it's a generational thing. They just like die out.
I do too. I think, so one thing that we have to remember is why, okay, this kind of topic adjacent, I guess, but one thing we have to remember is the people that do believe these things, as in they don't believe in climate change, they generally are older. They have a certain list of things that you can check off to say that this is their core beliefs and this is where they are. They're more likely to be evangelicals. They're more likely to be older. They're, and all of these, you can check the box there. And which brings me to another thing, is one thing that I was really worried and seeing kind of a trend was these really kind of younger, even younger than myself. I'm not that young, but, teeny or early 20, around your age, Lauren, year old people getting drawn into that propaganda, that side, where, climate change is real, big business is everything. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, like the Ben Shapiro's, the Candace
Sam Harris.
Right.
That's why these people exist.
Right. But one thing that I was realizing is, why is it that these guys are becoming so prominent on this side? It's because they don't have any fucking young people. That's why they're getting like propped up by these organizations and by these people with the same belief systems, because of the fact that they aren't normal, and so it's kind of it's like skewing my idea of what age group is that does actually follow that does lean that way. No, they're still old people. They're still disproportionately older. The younger generation does believe that climate change is real and it's man-made. But
someone like Ben Shapiro does definitely have a younger audience, along with Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris.
They have a younger audience, but it's not big. It's not a large audience. It's a small audience in comparison.
Yeah, if you look at the majority of
left-wing causes.
If you look at the majority of young people and the small percentage of the people who listen to like new atheist, conservative shit,
right?
It's a small portion.
I have a theory about why they like prop up like Ben Shapiro's and Kirk and Candace.
It's their like young person cards, right?
Well,
like
it's so that older people like, oh, there is a younger generation that really, gets us and what we do. That's my theory. I don't think that they have the support that they make it. They get their money to do their thing. And it's, they have corporations backing them to say this stuff, and they don't care that, that they're that the younger generation isn't. And it's probably a lot of older people listening to them anyways, I would guess. I mean, from what I can see, I mean, there is a lot of older people that follow them online and stuff like that. I mean, probably like my age or older. So
Right.
I mean, it's like how people get drawn into like Ben Shapiro is just like it's just kids on YouTube browsing, and then like, oh, a Ben Shapiro video pops up, and they just click it because clickbait, you know, whatever the title is, it draws them in, and then they just keep watching from there, like young, like fucking 12-year-olds, it will pop up for them, like that. That's how it happens, like with
Well, I mean,
the young people.
and they're also, you know, already kind of attracted to that type of ideology to begin with, right? I mean, I watched a thing I watched a segment one day with Ben Shapiro, watched his show, not because I was leaning towards that ideology, but because I'm like, who is this guy? And what is he saying that like people are on the right are just like, woohoo, all right. And I literally couldn't watch it past like 10 minutes. It was hard. And it was hard because of the fact that everything that came out of his mouth, I was like, wait, your argument is flawed, and here is why. You know, I had a counter argument for why his supposed thoughtful arguments were incorrect. And I just like, I don't know how anybody could watch this.
Also, like, he's just like not he's not like a good broadcaster. Like, I shouldn't talk, but like he's on camera, like he can't look at the camera, like he's afraid of the camera. He has like 3 cameras on him doing like a weird MTV's 90s shot. Like it's very, he has like 3 cameras on him switching back and forth. Like it's just very bad presentation to begin with. I don't know how the hell he's popular. He's very awkward on everything. Even on CNN, he's very bad.
Yeah.
Hey, pay him for $10,000, Amanda. I would do it for free because it'd be so easy.
I got Mark on the phone.
But I think that's what we were talking about. It's kind of, he's only popular with a certain segment of the population, and it's only popular, and it's not, maybe the audience isn't as young as we are presuming it to be, because of the fact that these voices are getting so like, oh, look, we got our young person just like we have our Black person. You know, they're treating it like that. Whereas if you go to any progressive, more left-leaning show or more left-leaning person, you don't see these people getting propped up like that because of the fact that they already attract a younger audience.
I mean, I just want to say one more thing, then we should probably go to Mark on the phone.
Okay.
But, you know, like, Turning Point USA has enough people involved in it to have chapters in colleges across the country. So, I mean, that's something to think about, you know. I mean, it's worth noting.
It's not necessarily about the people, though. They are funded by the Kochs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, I mean, the members in there are not being, like, paid to join.
Yeah,
they're just college kids.
Again, we had like conservative things in college before Turning Point USA existed.
That's true.
But they were a minority, and they still are a minority.
Absolutely.
And so I think that, you know, when I see, I have to remind myself, like, no, they are a vocal minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's getting that, and their voice is getting propped up by moneyed interests.
Right.
And that's what's helping propel that quote unquote movement, which is a movement. It's a faux movement. I don't really think it's a movement. And hopefully I don't have to eat my words in 20 years. So don't make me eat my words, America. But I think that the left and the left-wing populism, that's where the movement is right now. It's not on the right side. Now, there are people on the right that are actually attracted to left-wing populism, and they don't fucking even know it. Anyways, we'll get to Mark.
Oh, sorry.
No. Sorry.
Mark, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, go ahead.
So, you know, it's very disappointing because while the Republican Party and the Trump administration, you know, they're rolling back all the protections about climate change and coal protection, the Democratic Party, that leader of the Democratic Party, reverses a ban on accepting fossil fuel money. So I feel like we don't have anybody fighting for us. And I don't blame people for voting for the Green Party, because the Green Party is the only damn party that cares about climate change more than any other party ever in America. They care about the environment. They care about climate change. I wish they were a legit party, because I'm really getting sick of it. I'm just really disappointed that we don't have anybody. The Democrats, they accept fossil fuel money. The Republican Party and Trump, they don't believe in climate change at all. I don't know what, I mean, do you know what did Obama do about climate change? What did he do? What did the Democrats do the last 8 years or whatever? Were they being paid off by the fossil fuel industry, or having money or donations? Because I don't see any that much progress being done about climate change and making it better. And
Right.
that's the sad thing about this.
Well, now we were just talking about these were Obama standards that are being repealed by the Trump administration. These were they had specific regulations on these power plant on these coal plants that are now going into garbage. Barack Obama did also try to enlist the United States in the Paris Climate Agreement to help reduce carbon emissions by, I think, something by 2030 or something along those lines. And now scientists said that would not necessarily have been enough. It could maybe stop, but it's definitely not going to reverse the damage that's already done. But yeah, there's been, the thing is that everybody has failed on this front. Both major political parties have failed, for sure. And the fact that now, for those of you that aren't aware, the Democratic Party, the DNC had, or the DCCC, I don't remember which one, they had a rule in place where they said, okay, we will not accept donations from the fossil fuel industry. Well, a few days ago, they got rid of that rule, essentially, saying we can now accept money from the fossil fuel industry. So, of course, everybody should know that both parties have failed miserably, failed spectacularly, actually, on this. They did a good job at failing. Bad job because they failed. But yeah, both parties are terrible when it comes to this. And it's not just them. It's also our media. They don't keep the dialogue on climate change in a real, a practical way. And so by what I mean by that is when they do discuss anything about climate change, they have, the one scientist that knows what they're talking about. And then they have some paid goon from the oil industry that doesn't know shit and just goes, oh, you know what? The oil industry told me to say this. And so I'm going to say it now. And then they're going to say that that's an equal debate and equal discussion. And that's no. Nobody should be there that's paid from the fossil fuel industry, because they obviously have moneyed interests. Now, and then the media won't even tell you the connection between the so-called expert on the other side of the quote-unquote debate, when there shouldn't even be a debate in the first place.
Okay.
I mean,
it's been, it's Amanda. They said it's been the hottest summer in the history of America. It was the hottest summer this summer. I mean, the weather was at really ridiculous, levels that anybody's ever seen. It was the hottest summer this summer, and it's not supposed to be this way. This weather.
no.
You see how this weather is. You see how messed up this weather is. How it's hot, it's very hot one day, and then it's maybe rain a lot the next day, and it's very hot. The weather has been really just messed up.
Yeah, this is, I think in the past, 5 years, it's been the hottest summer every year, or the hottest year on record.
It just keeps getting
and it just keeps getting worse. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right, Mark. And both parties did fail in this. And I think scientists have already basically are at a consensus of the fact that we have past the point of no return. It's really about slowing it down at this point.
I wanted to mention too, to Mark's point, like Mark's up in New York, I'm in New England. The seasons have basically been changing on us. Like we don't have springs and falls anymore.
Yeah.
We have like this weird summer and this weird winter, and we get like a couple of weeks of fall weather and a couple of weeks of spring weather, and that's it. That's all we've been getting up here. So you can't, and you know, it's been getting worse every year. So you can't, you know, I don't know how you live up in this region and think that there's no climate change issue.
So I don't know how you live anywhere and think that, because that's the South too. I recognize that I live kind of up in the northern part of the South, but we used to have seasons. We did. We had a spring, summer, fall, and winter. Nope. We have pretty much we have a warm winter and a hot summer, and that's it. The fall is gone. The spring is gone.
It snows. It's like
I missed the spring.
And you can't even walk outside. You know, it's very bad in New York. The climate change is terrible in New York. You do not want to be here during the winter time. Trust me on that, Amanda and all of you. You don't want to be in New York during the winter time. It's worse.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to our last story because we actually have time for it. Okay, we're going to talk about being poisoned. Yay! So, I read a report today concerning a pesticide, common herbicide actually used. Two common herbicides used. One's atrazine. I'm sorry about the pronunciations, and the other one is glyphosate. So glyphosate resulted in shorter pregnancies and thus leading to premature deaths. And atrazine could be accompanied with birth defects. In fact, this particular pesticide, atrazine, is banned in the EU, but it's actually heavily utilized in the United States. Big surprise. So these are kind of those things that have been in the news lately about like Roundup and being poisoned in the water. These are these things. And unfortunately, people are under the impression that, okay, so if we ban these substances and then they're no longer in the drinking water, maybe they've only affected the individual that had the water or was pregnant at the time. And, you know, the baby, their only one baby is the one with birth defects. But unfortunately, both of these poisons have been linked to epigenetic changes. So epigenetic changes is the idea that that humans' DNA is not immutable. It can change. And I mean, you see epigenetic changes and I'm going to use an extreme example of this in radiation poisoning, right? You see a breaking down of somebody's DNA, and some damage to the DNA in that regard. And so that's essentially, I guess, what this could be doing on a long-term scale. So if you have epigenetic changes that occur, I guess, in an individual, they have a baby and those changes have manifested in that baby. What they have seen with these particular herbicides and pesticides is that epigenetic change can worsen throughout the generations, which obviously is very problematic. And one startling statistic here for everybody is that glyphosate, which is the one that had led to premature births, is basically in every pregnant woman in the United States, excluding about 7% of them. And so that's alarming. And I have no good news about this because there's no, this administration, there's nothing to indicate that they would pull these products off of the shelves and assure that and ban them like the EU has. I guess move to Europe, guys. I think that's where we're at right now. It may be cooler in Europe as well. I don't know. But so you're getting poisoned, and this is well known, that this is well known effect. Guys, this is so troubling. I don't know. I think that it's more alarming that the poisoning could potentially have such a profound effect, not only on you, but also on your progeny. Because even if it was gone today, if those women are pregnant, and because again, about 7% of the pregnant women don't have this chemical in their system, everyone else does, and they will pass on that new trait, that new poison, basically in their genes. Yikes.
Yeah, and this is something. So this was basically when I started doing a lot of stuff with my disease. My disease is lymphatic. We've talked about that before. I can't get rid of toxins. So when you talk about the GMOs and everything like that, so years ago I got into this when I found out about my disease. I think I was really kind of against the GMOs before that, which was kind of weird because my client uses I don't